So I never know how these conferences are gonna go, like what I'm gonna walk away with. I guess this year I've walked away with a lot about remote work and just kind of come to realize just how dominant Slack is in the market. You know, some years I always see what's going to be talked about, but you never really know what's gonna strike with you. But there's one thing that's certain. You're gonna feel inspired, and you're gonna be equally discouraged. Inspired because you're gonna meet a lot of amazing people, you're gonna hear amazing things, learn new things, but a little discouraged because it's overwhelming. There's so much information. And for me, that kind of triggers my imposter syndrome. I've been thinking about onboarding a lot lately. That's kind of been one of my roles of late at Weedmaps. And when you do that, you kind of go back to when you were new at a company, when you were new as a developer, when you were new at high school, things like that. Putting yourself in another person's shoes in this way helps you in that kind of a process and being the mentor and being the person, the go-to person, the point person. So in coming to this talk and in getting this opportunity to speak for a few minutes, I got to thinking about when I was a junior developer and coming to my first conference. And the discouragement that I felt, a lot of inspiration, but the discouragement that I felt was a little bit more pronounced, I'd say. So I'd like to address this talk to my previous self. Don't come to me with like, that's not the API for active mailer or something. Yeah. I'm just hoping that simply hearing some of these words from somebody on the stage, like 6 feet off the ground, will resonate with some newcomers to the community and hopefully make a few people feel more included, a little bit less alone. Like, hey, there's that guy up there saying this stuff, and he used to be, you know, not up there, and now he is. So if you're a junior developer, this is for you. This is not like a core article of like how to be a 10x rock star. Instead, what follows are like some things I wish someone would have said when I was brand new. So let's see what our time-traveling user mailer has to say for our previous, more junior self. All I feel really qualified to speak on is my experience. So you're gonna have to indulge me. You're gonna learn a lot about me. I've worked a lot of jobs. I've worked in kitchens. I've knocked doors. I've cleaned toilets. I've cleaned dishes. I've worked as a pharmaceutical clerk. So, you know, your typical millennial. Today I'm an engineer at Weedmaps. I work principally on the back end. We have a Read API that is backed by Elasticsearch. It's a Rails 5 app. If you are interested in learning about how all that works, Alex Reif gave a great talk today, so you can check that out on ConfFreaks afterwards. But before that, when I was much younger, I decided I was going to move to France. So I did that. In total, I spent over 5 years there. While I was there, I taught English. I was an English tutor for wealthy people in private schools. I assisted photographers. I worked in a photo studio, worked on movies. So it was a pretty cool experience. It was actually in trying to edit a photo portfolio website that I first touched code. It was one of those like bespoke PHP CMSs. You go in there and like throw some images in and it builds you a little gallery. And someone I was with couldn't figure out how to get things working. I was like, oh, look at it. Like, oh, what is this? PHP. Start Googling stuff, and I was just hooked. It was over from there. Eventually, though, I kind of realized that I could only build so many static websites by watching YouTube, and I really wanted to join a team. This is the thing I wanted to do now. So this experience of immersing myself in a completely different culture, as you can imagine, taught me a lot. I had studied French a little bit in high school when I was 14. That's obviously a whole different ballgame. I didn't speak any French when I moved over there, though. So I just kind of showed up. I knew some expats, people that did speak English with me and things, but I obviously wanted to learn, and they couldn't really teach me. I knew I needed to kind of stick my neck out there a little bit, but I was scared to make mistakes. Try this sometime. Like, go to the north end of Boston, you know, where you can go to these authentic Italian restaurants and order something in Italian. Like, look up a few phrases and just see how far you can go. You go, like, maybe 10 seconds before the waiter says something to you that you don't understand, and you're like, okay, let's go back to English, good thing we're in Boston. But when you do that in another country, where they really don't speak English very well, you're kind of just left out there to figure things out. And it's a pretty embarrassing, humbling experience. So when I moved over there, this is kind of how it went for 6 months. I'd wake up, I'd study because I was horrified of making a mistake. I'd go outside, I'd make a lot of mistakes. I'd get made fun of, condescended to. You've probably heard the stigma that the French aren't the biggest sweethearts. So they have no problem correcting you and telling you that you're not that bright and that you're doing it wrong. That's why we love them. But doing that for 6 months, you burn out pretty quickly. You kind of realize that this can't go on forever. So the trick I told myself was to stop making mistakes, right? But I just couldn't do it. I honestly thought I was just going to flame out one day. I'd have weird little nightmares about going out and embarrassing myself, telling someone, I'm trying to talk about love and really talking about death, just those kinds of things. Over time, it did get easier, but the mistakes kept creeping out. And because I was getting more and more fluent, when the mistakes happened, they were even more embarrassing and impactful. Eventually, I started dreaming in French, though. I would spend whole days, even weeks, not speaking a word of English. And I'd think in French. So there came a point that, I guess a turning point, where I accepted that I'd never be free from these mistakes. Eventually, I became fluent enough that getting a job wasn't a problem, reading the news, going to parties. I moved home and I got a French degree. And I came away convinced that, first of all, immersion is the most effective way to learn a language, but I also learned that I needed to reframe the way I thought about mistakes. So anyone that's learned a foreign language knows this. In order to learn the language, you have to make millions of mistakes, and you have to rip that Band-Aid off. It's on there, and you can either do it right away, just go out there, embarrass yourself, get over it, make those mistakes, or you can do it over the course of years. Either way, it's coming off, or you just won't learn it. Epictetus was a Stoic philosopher. He was born a slave and was of the mindset that philosophy was something that was to be lived, right? It wasn't just some theoretical thing. He's a well-known Stoic philosopher. This is probably one of his better-known quotes up there. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. So I kind of tweaked it for our purposes. It's not that you made a mistake, but how you react to it that matters. So I learned to accept my mistakes as inevitable and as rich learning experiences, and that was a turning point for me. I started to lean into these moments of like, oh, I did it again. But I'm never going to forget this emotional memory I have in this moment. And going forward, I'm not going to make that mistake again, and I can kind of smell it before it comes to me. When I began working as a junior developer on a team, shortly after moving back to the United States, I was quickly hurled into a very familiar situation where I was making tons of obvious and embarrassing mistakes. Because I delivered this talk to myself in the future or past, this time I was ready for it. So advice for my previous, more junior self is to not allow your mistakes to defeat you. Let them come, let them shape you. You will always make them, but you can control your relationship with them. And one day you'll be sitting at Les Deux Magots ordering a coffee, and the waiter will mistake your accent for Swiss, and you'll die and go to Valhalla or wherever. So I'll just close by saying this. I assume that if you're here and if you're listening to this or there and listening to this, you know how compelling this career is. Some of you have noticed how difficult it can be. Learning to read and write code is probably one of the easiest things we do. And this is a team sport, right? We work together to build software. And embarrassing mistakes are going to happen, and they're going to happen more often for a newcomer. So this continues as well whenever you gain new responsibilities. Say you become a team lead or a manager. Say you change jobs. You change tech stacks. Without proper expectations, you're going to flame out. Due to this, we make up what can be viewed as a very discouraging industry. Imposter syndrome and anxiety are endemic to programmers, and inclusivity remains a real issue, and these challenges are only stiffer for those in underrepresented groups. So if anything, I hope this talk helps someone out there not fear making mistakes, not let them slow them down, but kind of lean into them. And hopefully seniors can be a little bit more introspective and get the itch to be mentors and themselves not be afraid to make mistakes in front of more junior programmers. And when they notice someone may be struggling with something or afraid to stick their neck out there, they can be more encouraging. The point is that none of us are alone when it comes to making these mistakes. So younger self, learn to embrace the problems presented to you without fear. The industry needs you and wants you here. Thank you. We have a party. If you go to railsconf.com/parties, register, come, have a drink with us. Love to get to know you.